Hey, if you don't know us
We
yet,
are Leslie and April.
we are two
We
chicks
have been
chatting.
friends for 30 plus years, and we have been learning and growing individually and together.
Through this adventure called life.
Get
Get
ready to
ready to
love
love
us.
us.
We are two badass chicks sharing our unique perspectives, dropping some knowledge with more than a few F bombs along the way.
Join us, relax, and enjoy. Please comment, share, subscribe, and follow. About devotion. I spent the morning listening to some stuff just to get myself prepped for having this conversation, which is was actually interesting because it kind of changed my thoughts a little bit.
Well, you go
Or
first.
no, not devotion, dedication.
Dedication, yeah.
Took me to devotion, which now I got to come back. So anyway, dedication, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm going to say right up front too, by the way, that yes, dedication again rolls back into authenticity. So yeah, yeah, that's keep coming up. Just keep on coming.
It does. It also brought up in me the word, and then I'll let you share what you found. But the word when you are not just authentic, but you are not willpower isn't the right word. It's when you have the drive for something, whether it's a task or a purpose.
Yeah.
But go ahead. I'll think of a better word while you're.
Okay, no worries. So I listened to Sadhguru this morning, and the qualification of dedication actually rolled into devotion and what it means to be devoted, and just how that has to be a part of the core of who you are. And that shows up many different areas, but the predominant place it shows up is in faith, and practice, not, thought process, but the way people practice their faith. And for instance, Muslims pray 5 times a day, and you actually have to be devoted to that practice if you're really going to be considered Muslim. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, there really aren't that many practices that I'm aware of. I'm sure there are, but that I'm aware of that require someone to actually have devotion, and have be dedicated to being devoted. You know what I mean? So that repetition that you include in your life that reinforces that thought process. I don't know many places where that shows up, but I understand a little bit more now about the mindset of people that are like dedicated runners, or people that are dedicated to yoga, and they have a yoga practice. They really have a yoga dedication.
And the word that I was trying to think of was discipline. So they have to be disciplined, and a lot of us, me included, aren't disciplined about many things because because of who I am, I like variation in everything I do. I don't necessarily like a same morning schedule, the same evening schedule, the same work schedule. I don't like any of that. I like to be able to be flexible in what I'm doing. Sure, some of those things I do regularly quite often at the same
Yeah.
time in the same way every day, but sometimes I don't. And I know people that are, very regiment about what they're doing as far as their disciplined life. But I agree with you. I don't know of any other religion in particular that's that disciplined, but you can apply it to anything. It could be, like you say, exercise. It could be,
Diet.
my art practice, diet, what you do with
Yes.
your kids, so on and so on and so on. It's just, some people are that way with their business and their work. They're very disciplined. And then anything outside of that, they're not, because they're so disciplined with what they do. Some people are dedicated and disciplined with their schedules or their beliefs or their practices on throughout their whole life. They don't want anything to differ. I know a couple of people like that, and I just can't be around them for very long. So, it's
Well,
just like
I also believe I am dedicated to change. Like, I love change. I love that kind of roller
yes,
coaster kind of thing. I don't care if I'm traveling and my flight's late. Like, I can roll with it. So that doesn't. A lot of people get really challenged by that. The anxiety kicks up and they get crazed and they can't take it. For me, it's just not a challenge. But I think there is something to be said for actually understanding the premise behind what people are dedicated to.
yes, there is a seed in there. It's not just discipline. There's a seed for what's driving your passion for that thing or task or purpose.
Yeah.
So it's you're right, but I mean, how do you quantify that? Somebody's passion for art, for example, is really the seed that's driving the discipline, that's driving the dedication that I have to choose every day. There's
But that's
it could be for a relationship, or it could be for a
yeah.
job, or it could be yeah.
But I think that's why we have to have bigger, deeper conversations and stop being so surface based, is so that we can understand not only ourselves but one another. I mean, for me, if you're a person who gets up and runs every day at 5 a.m., then I'm not going to invite you to a party that starts at 11 o'clock at night. I mean, just out of respect for my knowledge of your dedication to that thing, I wouldn't go out of my way to try and circumvent what you're dedicated to. But if I don't know what you're dedicated to,
right.
If
we don't ask those questions.
Exactly.
What lights you up every day? Yeah, are you doing it or not?
Yeah, what have you decided that you have to do in your life to make your life really work for you? If you're in a relationship that I don't think is the right relationship for you, is it my place to try and circumvent that decision that you've made and actively create scenarios that push against your decision-making process? And it just amazes me, like, where business, especially where businesses will say, like, no praying on site. And it's okay, so that you basically have decided you don't want people who pray multiple times a day to be employees at your company. That's really what you're getting at.
Yeah.
So why can't you just say that? Why can't you just decide that, because the equal employment opportunity people are going to come after
financial ramifications, that's why. Yeah.
So, but that's it. You still have a problem. To me, you still have an innate problem. And if you don't want people to pray on site, then you give them a little extra time in their breaks so that they can drive off site and do what they need to do. It's just that whole role of trying to push against what someone else has decided for themselves is valuable
Yeah.
is challenging and problematic in our
Yeah,
society.
no, it's what's the word? Forced inclusivity. um yeah, it really is. I mean, they want us to be, and I go back to the same thing I talked about before about the industrial age and all us being, these workers that are like robots that are doing their job and getting it done and doing it the way they want us to do it. And they could care less about what happens in your life. But I don't think that's going to be the future. I think
No.
that good employers will want to propagate happy, thriving people as individuals, no matter what their, religion, preference, dedications are. What doesn't matter if it's religious or not. That they would propagate that thriving in themselves so that they would get the best out of their employees, because then a thriving employee is going to be exponentially productive than one that's not. And
Well,
if the company's helping them to thrive as an individual, then they will be somewhat, and bringing it back to dedication, right?
Yeah, dedicated to the company now. It's like, you're dedicated to me, so I'm dedicated to you, and that
yeah,
we're feeding each other, and that really works.
yeah,
So yeah, it becomes cyclical at that point, right?
yeah.
It is, and that's, I think that's huge, and it should be the same way in a whole lot of different arenas. And actually, how do you think that would work if we knew more about what the businesses we were applying to as employees, what they're dedicated to, what they find as a business are their core, I don't know, goals and
Yep.
responsibilities in the world. So we don't even apply places that don't have the kind of environment that we
Even when
need.
you do, even when you do, I can attest to this firsthand, is that even when you do apply to places, they say they represent certain things, but you don't really know for sure if that's a bunch of talk or if they actually walk the walk.
Right.
And what I usually do is reach out to other people to say, what is this company really about?
Yeah.
Give me the skinny. But it is unfortunate you can't rely on that, but because they're trying to recruit just like everybody else. But I think it would be hard for company, not hard. There would be a cost associated with them understanding each individual, but I think there would be a benefit in that in the long run. So let's say, April Page is a marketer in a company and she has other interests inside the company that might not be in her current skill set. And later on, because you've noted that, or the HR person knows, okay, these are the things she wants to explore in the future. Okay, so when something comes up and we want to hire people, or at least start people into building that department, should we think about her crossover skills, and can we get her certified quick enough to be a part of that group? Because that's what she said she wanted to explore, and at least pay attention enough to offer it to her to say, hey, we know in the past this is what you said you wanted. Here's what we're doing. Here's where we see you fit. What do you think? And it's okay if you don't want to. We'll go on to other people, but I wanted to bring it to
you wanted to give you the chance.
That's right. And HR, I know for a dang fact that HR departments aren't doing any of that. They aren't even keeping up with what you can do even in your own department, much less other departments. So when let's say the department got closed down like it did at my other company, which shall not be named. If a whole department gets let go, they did nothing to help those group of very well versed, in the processes of the company, very connected to the field offices and field managers. They did nothing to try to reapply
Redistribute that
those
wealth of skill set.
personnel. Yeah. They were like, go look on the website and apply, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you promote me to
internally
other departments in the business?
That's
it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, no, it's absolutely ridiculous at that level. I think though, really, the challenge is we're just not having the conversations. We're still so stuck in having these very low level conversations that we're not used to or comfortable with. Say, telling our truth, so to speak. Yeah. And typically when you get asked these kinds of questions, about, what is your life about? What are you dedicated to? What are the things that you really value in your life? I was listening to Dean Graziosi this past week, and he was talking about the fact that, he's an entrepreneur. And he said when business went really bad one year, and he was like, what if I had to get a job? What would I do? How would I make it work? Because he's like, I value taking my kids to school every day. I value picking them up. I value coaching their teams. Yeah. How could I make that work as an employee? Yeah. And he's like, he said, and this was just a thought, he's just running the thoughts through his head. But the reality is, you're absolutely right. If you're dedicated to something outside of a business, as an employee, they want you to leave everything else to behind work. Once work's over, you can be dedicated to whatever you want.
Well, I think there's value too in high performers, or at least in some scenarios. So for example, like in my current company, the highest performing salesperson wanted to move to Hawaii with his wife and kids. Yeah. And because he wanted to move to Hawaii, it was going to cause him to have to work different hours and, so on and so forth, and not be readily as available as he might have been in the past, in the Eastern time zone. So they worked that out with him. I mean, he's got to start at freaking 4 or 5 in the morning over there. Yeah. But, it's the same thing for him. He wanted his kids to have that experience that he knew and loved in Hawaii, and he wanted it to not pass him by. It was like now or never, because they're a certain age. Yeah. And he wanted to be able to be there for them, when they got out of school, et cetera, et cetera. So because of his dedication to changing his hours and dedication to wanting his kids to have this experience, he kind of made it happen with management. But I think that management wouldn't have been as open to that if it was like, a customer service person.
But then what you're saying is the only way to actually have ownership in your life and work a job is to exceed on expectations.
Well, that's my point, is that
everybody doesn't have that capacity. Everybody's not capable at the same level. So now the company gets to set a standard that's beyond achievable in order for you to have the life you want.
Right. Well, so now that and to that point, I don't think it's right. I think if it's for one, it should be for all.
I agree.
But, and then, that pouring into that person to make their life what they want it to be, and vice versa, then you hopefully would get that back, having that as a bar for both sides. So you can't have it one way or another, right? You can't have all of these options, and then the company keep you on as a lower performer. I mean, that's just a fact. Like, if you're not good at what you do, and they would,
if you are good at what you do, but you're not exceptional.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, but I'm just saying it requires, give and take from both sides. So if they're being more flexible, then you have to step up, and not to be exceptional, but to do your job. Some people think doing their job is
but let's have this conversation based on the standard that everybody's going to be doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay,
you're not dealing with trying to pull people up out of the gutter, so to speak.
Yeah. So the thing that comes to my mind is all the remote stuff going on right now. So and I see that as a give and take. So that cat in my mind is never going back in the cage. So like, people have felt the freedom of being able to go to, and in my example, go to Florida for 4 weeks to see my family, take off and go to my friend's house to watch her animals while she's at a wedding for a week, and I work remotely from those locations. I could go literally on vacation and no one would know, because I'm working from wherever I'm at.
I mean, I've done that for years. I did it for years and years and years. I just knew
before any of this happened.
For me, it was like, no worries. I went to Hawaii with Lily, and I worked when I needed to work. I went to Puerto Rico and I worked when I needed to work. So I did get a lot of kickback back in the day, because, people were like, oh, you're not in the state. Like, I'm hardly ever in the state, just so you know. I go where I want to go and do what I want to do and handle it how I need to handle it. I understand how to get, connected to everybody, because I know what a VPN is. But, that now being kind of a base that a lot of people get to work from, I don't think that's ever going to go away again. I don't think it will ever go away again. But I do think it's going to be something that's going to be challenging, because companies have the ability to do things like lock your access down to your IP address. So you have to be at this IP address in order to connect into the VPN. We're not going to accept, any and every IP address. So now, as an employee, you've got to get savvy and figure out, how can I fake my IP address? Which can be done. Totally can be done. But why do they need to have that kind of control? Why is it necessary? Because it's just conceptual. It's like, you don't really have the control anyway. And why do you feel like me being at my house with my IP address is any better, or I'm any better there than I would be at Starbucks or WeWork or Regus or wherever on the face of the earth? As long as I'm
fear. It's fear. They fear of what they don't know.
Keep going though. But what is it they don't know? These are people that adopt technologies on a regular basis. So what don't you know?
Yeah. So here's what I equate it to. Like, the ground is shaking. Like, you got a little bit of a earthquake, and it's like a 0.1 or 2, and you're like, what was that? You're like, wait a minute, what was that? So they don't know what they don't know. They don't know how it's going to affect their business. They don't know how, it's going to affect their infrastructure, or even their IT infrastructure. They don't understand it, because it's, I think they're understanding it better now that we've had a couple of years in the loop. But I think that's really what's behind it, is fear of their business collapsing in the end, which is unwarranted. But like what we're saying, it only makes people thrive. So now someone who was tethered to, let's say where I'm at, Raleigh, North Carolina, because they have you going in the office. Now, if you're working remotely, now you basically can move anywhere. What if you're family lives in Florida, or your grandkids live in Ohio, or whatever it is. Like you want to move there to be with the people that you love. And
or you just want to go spend 6 months in New York City, or
like me, I want to go to Australia for a month or two.
Yeah, I mean,
So
what if that's what I want to do?
Yeah, I'm trying to work
I
that
think
out.
the
But
thing that brings me back to the idea of dedication is that companies don't know their staff. They've not had, nobody has had an in-depth conversation with their staff deep enough where I know enough about you to know no matter where you are on the face of the earth, you are going to show up for me because that's who you are.
Yep.
And that's what they don't know.
No, because they haven't put the dedication in. So why would they would feel uneasy about that relationship.
Yeah. But there's nothing as an employee you can do to assure.
No, I mean, just give some people, and not even then, but some people by their word. But yeah, I agree with you. They don't know.
Yeah. That to me, it's an interesting premise, because what I'd like to be able to see is that businesses are going to want to have deeper conversations in the hiring process, and also in the after hire, we're transitioning as a business process, where they don't feel like I can take the mentality of I own you for these 8 hours a day, or 10 hours, or 7 or 6. And I need to figure out how to own your concentration for that period of time, as opposed to you are dedicated enough to know that I know you're dedicated enough to show up and do your job.
Yeah.
I don't have to fight that battle in my mind. I don't have to fight it in reality. If you're not where you say you're going to be, there's a good reason for it. It's
right.
not.
I think part of me wants to say that's the level of person, maybe. But maybe that's not right, because you could be 7-Eleven cashier and still be dedicated. So
no, I mean, there was a thing I saw on TikTok where the Wendy's, this guy worked at Wendy's for
I saw
27 years. Yeah. And they gave him this little crappy, congratulatory gift or whatever. It was ridiculous, but 27 years. So this guy worked at Wendy's for 27 years, and they said he never missed a shift. So that's dedication. That's who he is. That is not about.
I think they put together a GoFundMe account or something for him.
They did, yes, $200,000 last time I looked at it.
Yeah, because they were like, "That's ridiculous. They should have rewarded him." Yeah, yeah.
But that's, I guess my point is there a way to actually identify that kind of dedicated mindset in individuals to give other people in their life and business and other like church life and stuff like that, to give those other areas access to that kind of knowledge of who you are as a person? Because I think that's really where it lands. It is about, this is who I am. This is how I show up.
Right. And there's value in that, but it's intangible.
It is an intangible, but it is the thing that I notice that organizations try and coerce out of individuals. I don't know. I don't want to be a member of a club that requires that kind of coercion in order for it to be a club.
Yeah. I think it has to change. The whole mentality has to change. It has to be a paradigm shift, so to speak, of how they're thinking of not just HR, but what is real value, what is dedication, like what we're talking about now.
I don't think human resources should be called human resources.
Yeah.
Because I don't see the humanity in human resources.
It's true. They have another, which is also not true. It's called talent management or talent acquisition. Yeah. Yes. And they don't even acquire talent internally. That was, like my other example I gave earlier, where
they don't even know your
department was like,
I know. They don't even identify
was laid off, and I contacted said department, and they told me the same thing. Oh, go on the website and send in your resume. I'm like, I'm talking to you. But 13 and a half years into this company. But
even at that point, just the idea that you've got a whole department of people that are being, let go. And as a business, you're not saying, we've got so much knowledge in that group of people.
Yes.
Their knowledge is not just what they did in their department.
No, it's
so why would
the business knowledge,
why would we let that level of, skill set walk out the door, go to our competitors and say, well, here's what they're not doing well?
We had that happen in my current company, and it's part of the reason why we're having hiccups right now.
Yeah,
because of the knowledge base went out the door with certain key people. Yeah, 3 in particular, and it's gone. So now what do you do?
What do you do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And the people that are left, they know a little bit, but they don't know what those others knew. And sometimes it's not a good situation, but
I don't think it's ever a good situation. And I think the other side of the fence also is that the way you treated those people will show up when you need that knowledge, and you call them and they're like, yeah, nah, dude, I'm out. I ain't got that for you.
Exactly. Unless you pay me a lot.
You gotta pay me half your earnings this quarter, and then I think I'll tell you what you think you want to know.
So that's it. But I heard something that I don't know if we talked about it or not, but I heard a stat where most companies, especially larger ones, that there's about 100 people that are actually doing all the work, the major work.
Oh, dude, I heard that whole thing. I think it was a Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
And that like if
they're the quiet people
at a business.
Yeah.
The rule of 100. So if there's 1,000, there's 100 people that are doing the work. The problem is that
you don't know who they are. 100. Yeah. You don't know which 100, and they're usually the ones that don't speak up and that don't look for the accolades and the pats on the back.
Yes.
They're the one making everything run.
Everything happen.
Yes. So what companies need to do is pinpoint who those people are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pinpoint who they are.
They don't even know how to find them.
Yeah, well, that's it.
This is the thing.
You don't even know who those people are and make sure that they're thriving and happy. If at minimum that's what you're doing.
Exactly.
Because then that will keep at least the intellectual knowledge in house,
Yeah, but how do you even? They don't even know how to find them. It's like you don't even know how to ask the questions in a way where you're getting real information. They think, honestly, I remember this from 150 years ago when I was working at a company, when I had a job. And I was going to transition out of that position, and they wanted me to write down everything I do every day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, even then, back in the 90s, I was like, this is a ridiculous exercise because I could write down anything.
Yeah.
How is that a true representation of what I do? Because if you look at a situation and you shift and, you ebb and flow because you like, I know that so-and-so, like the exact example that you gave with your mom, I know that this needs to happen. If a patient is in my ward, in my unit, I know this thing needs to happen 16 hours after they come out of surgery.
Yeah.
If you were to write down everything you do, that knowledge may not come down on a sheet of paper.
Right. The processes.
So all you're getting is, I show up at 8, I log in, you're getting crap.
Yeah.
You're getting crap. But businesses feel like that's real. Like that,
right. Their day-to-day instead of the actual process for a given, situation.
Yeah, you can't possibly access that kind of knowledge.
Mm-mm.
When somebody's been around for years and years and years. How can you access that knowledge and hold on to it when you devalue the person?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I look at the way that we're doing things as human beings in America, and I'm like, okay, so the only thing I can see that the majority of people, at least the ones talking, are truly dedicated to is a financial win. Beyond that,
well, that's the whole point, is it's got to stop being, we're so consumer and material based with everything. It's all about the almighty dollar. And that's the shift that needs to change. Of course, everybody wants to make a profit, but does it need to be at the expense of everything else?
Exactly.
And I think we're reaping the consequences of that now. So,
I look at like Amazon and I'm wondering, what is the major dysfunction with the management at that company that you're not paying your employees at the best possible level, period. Given the profit line that you're making, you should have people beating down the doors to work there. They really should. Payroll should be the one area that they are like, I'm willing to throw whatever we got to throw at it to keep these people happy. Because look at what we've been able to do with their effort, with their dedication, with their devotion.
Yes.
And if we can keep that, how much bigger can we be? If we lose it, you got what you got now. 300 people walk off the job and strike.
Yeah.
Why are you choosing that? It's and putting millions of dollars into trying to force people to not unionize.
Yeah, well, because that's going to cost some money. That's why.
It's you're paying millions of dollars to unionize them.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying they're thinking of the long game. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So you're doing it backwards. You're doing it backwards. And
they are.
On the other hand, like as a consumer, I'm like, I go out of my way not to buy anything on Amazon anymore. I look for alternatives all over the place.
Yeah.
Where previous to last year, I was cool with Amazon and Prime and the whole 9 yards. But now I'm like, no, I'm not willing to play in the field of that game.
Yeah.
Because you're abusing people.
Yeah.
And unnecessarily. It's not like the company's dying and you're broke and you're barely making it.
Yeah, and I can tell you from experience with when I went to, they flew me to Nashville to have that interview, that it was ridiculous. The whole situation was ridiculous. They wanted me to admit when I was unprofessional in my career and how did I handle it. And I was like, I'm not going to admit to that because I'm always a professional.
When were you unprofessional in your career?
They didn't word it like that, but that's the point they were trying to make. It's like, when did you make a decision, an important decision, without the proper information? I said, well, I wouldn't do that. Like, I don't understand the question, because you're asking me when I would, fly by the seat of my pants to make a decision that's probably not appropriate.
Yeah.
And
When would I go against the company and do something that would not be appropriate for me to do? And the last time I did that, I literally worked at Wendy's, and I threw
yeah,
a
exactly.
guy
I
because
said
he
I
was
wouldn't
being
do
rude.
that. And she said,
Okay.
she goes, you've never had a situation where you didn't have all the information to make a decision. I said, no, because I go and I seek it out.
Yeah.
And she closed her laptop and said, okay, and left. That was the end of that. Like, you're trying to get me to tell you that I'm unprofessional, and I'm not going to do that. So,
well, and it's not true.
Yeah, or you're trying to get me to say, I'll be okay with not having enough information and make that decision for you.
Basically what you're saying is we need people that are willing to fly by the seat of their pants and make decisions when they don't have all the access to all the information, and then also be judged on their ability to make a decision that's profitable and reasonable. Wrong.
That's it.
Wrong.
And then my question to the next person was, have you ever met your goals that you're telling me that you're trying to meet for the quarter? Well, no, not usually. Okay.
So you just, you create crazy, stupid goals. You tell people that you
don't give me enough information.
Goals, and you make sure they don't meet those goals, and then you pay them accordingly.
And then that sounds like a lot of stress. And no, thank you.
That sounds like a lot of stress.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stress.
Yeah. So you're not giving me what I need to make a real decision, and then you're going to, judge my performance based on what I don't have that is already built into this situation. And then you don't have to pay me.
And you want me to be dedicated and devoted to working here.
Yeah. Just all in the name of working for them on my resume. No thanks.
Like saying I work at Amazon is that freaking phenomenal. No, and it's not.
No.
Working
not anywhere. Like that. I mean, I had the worst experience ever. I thought it was rude, unprofessional. I thought the people that were actually interviewing me weren't actually looking at me. They were typing on their laptop with the laptop open the whole time. They actually didn't look into my eyes.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Typing, like, I'm sure filling in some form that they have to fill in based on the conversation we're having, but still, look at the person you're talking to for 4 seconds.
Well, and ask me a question that's about me.
Yeah.
You're interviewing me. Why are you asking me, just a set of questions off of a spreadsheet or whatever? It's like standardized testing. What am I? Is this a pass or fail?
It must have been, because I'm glad I didn't pass.
I'm glad you didn't either.
Yeah, but I knew right then that it wasn't the right thing for me. But anyhow.
No. So to end this well, I like both of these terms, dedication and devotion. I like both of them. And I think that the world will be a better place, and American society as a whole will be a better place if more conversations get deep enough where you can understand what it is individuals are dedicated to, what they're devoted to, and how to support those choices.
Absolutely. From an individual micro level to a macro level, business-wise and society, even. So I think it goes all the way up and all the way back down. Yeah.
I agree. And I think we all need to get a little more in touch with those pieces of who we are, as individuals, so that we can hold people accountable to showing up for us that way, so that this can stay, within within the guardrails of our lives. If you're dedicated to losing weight, then everybody around you should be just as dedicated to that goal for you as you are.
Yeah. Yep. Amen.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well,
All
great.
right.
We're going to end here.
Well,
Go ahead.